microphone to deliver your question, or write down in the chat room, and then the presenter will answer the question. So now is the time for Josephine Kumala to present her case about the translation strategies and readability of local terms applied in the Laskar Pelangi translation. Okay, Josephine, you can start now.
Thank you, Cinda, as the moderator. I'll share my screen now. Mr. Alex, maybe you could turn on the share screen. Mr. Alex. Could you see my screen clearly, everyone?
Yes.
All right, so today I'm going to present my paper, which entitled The Translation Strategies and Readability of Local Terms Applied in the Laskar Pelangi Translation. The first one is introduction. Based on Ghazala 1995, translation is generally used to refer to all the process and methods used to convey the meaning of the source language into the target language. The definition focuses on the notion of meaning as an essential element in translation. To understand the source language is very important in convey it into the target language. So reading is the most basic ability possessed by the people who provides many benefits. This is in reading, one is expected not to only read, but also to understand the content of the reading. In translation, reading also means understanding from both language, which is the source language and the target language. And translation strategy and readability are important because they relate to each other. Translation strategy is used to determine the most suitable one for translation that can be understood by the reader. And the readability is used to measure whether the existing translation can be understood well by the target reader. So the object of this study is Laskar Pelangi novel. This is a novel written by Andrea Hirata in 2005, which has been adapted into a film. This novel actually has many versions of translation. It is about it is published by Bentang Pustaka in 2005. This 529 pages novel tells the story of the life of 10 children from poor families who attend schools in the Muhammadiyah school in Belitung, which is full of poverty. They are living in poverty, actually. This novel is so popular that it is adapted to 23 foreign language, and one of the language is English, which is the translation. The Rainbow Troops The one that I choose is from Angie Kilban. So these are few studies that I use, and I think this is the most in line with my paper. The first one is from Rizky Gunawan's. It is the translation strategy of cultural words and Laskar Pelangi. It is discussed of the translation strategy of cultural words in Laskar Pelangi novel. Every language is unique. Therefore, not all cultural words can be translated literally, and the translators often experience untranslatability problems in translating cultural words. Although there are grammatical differences, um, there are still solutions to find the meanings that are similar to the source language in order to make the target reader understand the language. The researcher found 7 procedures that used by the translation in translating the cultural words in the novel Laskar Pelangi. And the most frequently used translation strategy was domesticating. The researcher himself considers the neutralizing translation strategy as the most appropriate in translating cultural words because it can solve the problem of untranslatability better than domesticating and foreignizing. The second studies that I chose that quite similar to my paper is the paper by Pamela Stephanie Pratama Bongs, a translation technique analysis on translating cultural words in Laskar Pelangi novel by Andrea Hirata. It is discussed the translation technique analysis on translating cultural words in Laskar Pelangi novel. So the researchers analyzed 13 samples of cultural words in this novel, which were categorized as material culture category. There are 5 translation techniques used, which is description, reductions, amplifications, particularizations, and generalizations. So the researchers use these methods, these techniques to analyze the cultural words in Laskar Pelangi novel by Andrea Hirata. And the third researchers that I use to in related studies with my paper is Limbs Gali Natalia's translation strategies of cultural words and their readabilities in the Hunger Games by Susan Collins. This is quite similar with my paper since it is discussed about the translation strategies and their readabilities of cultural words. In the Hunger Games novel, researchers conduct this study to find out the cultural words, translation strategies, and readability, and the relation between them. Each group of cultural words requires a different translation strategy: domestication, dominates and gesture, sociocultural, and customs, while foreignizations dominates material culture and custom and ideas, as well as ecology. Existing culture words have different levels of readability. It is not easy to translate text with many cultural words. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to its readability so that it can be conveyed properly. So the similarity of my research with this research conducted by the previous researchers that I already mentioned is the way of collecting data to determine the best translation strategy that is most suitable with for the translation of the novel. The similarities they have are the common opinion that there will be discrepancies in the local language translation to English translation due to the cultural differences, because every background has a different perspective, and also similarities in sampling several lines in the novel in the translated one as a comparison to see the translation strategy that might be used by the translator in translating the novel. So the different from the study from this study and with the other researchers is that the previous researchers look at the level of readability by comparing several understanding of local terms from the difficulty level of understanding local terms, while I use a questionnaire to see how the level of readability of my correspondent was. So for the theories of translation, there are few theories of translation that on cultural words and readability, which is the topic of this research. But I choose few of the theories, which is by Newmark 1988, page 5, rendering the meaning of a text into another language in a way that the author intended the text. Another one is by Nida and Tabor, 1982, page 12, translating consists in reproducing in the receptor language the closest natural equivalent of the source language message. According to the both definition that already mentioned, between the original word and the translated word, there must be a process to find an equivalence, and therefore as a translator, aside being able to translate, it is also important to be able to see whether the message conveyed through the translation can be received properly by the target leader. And this is the definition by Newmark on culture, because we need to understand what is culture first before we know about the cultural word or local terms. So Newmark defined the culture as the way of life and its manifestations that are peculiar to a community that use a particular language as its means of expressions. So the particular language that are meant here is the cultural words, which is used by the particular community as the way of life and expressing idea. So Newmark divides culture into two, namely personal and universal language. Universal language used by society and easy to translate, but personal language is used by individuals to express themselves, and it's quite difficult. It's quite more difficult to translate. And on the readability, I choose the theory of Nababan and Silalahi, 2009. It says that there are three levels of readability, namely low, medium, and high readability. So at the high level of readability, a word can be understood easily. In the low level of in the medium level of readability, the word can be understood but not fully understood. And the low readability, the word cannot be understood at all. Translation theory on cultural words and also readability are the main things that needed in the overcoming the existing problems. It is important for a translator to translate a text well so that it can be understood by the reader, especially target reader. Cultural words are often difficult to translate due to the cultural differences between two different languages. The translation strategy used is important for every existing cultural word or local term to understand its meaning. The readability level itself, it is used to measure whether the target language can understand the translation from the source language well, regardless of cultural differences. So for the methodology, the area of this in this research is the translation of novel. Sorry, there's typo. The area in this research is the novel Laskar Pelangi by Andrea Hirata and the translation The Rainbow Troops by Angie Gilban. Based on the area of this research, this paper will discuss how the delivery of the source language to the target language can be understood properly. Research on translation strategies used in local terms in novel and their readability to target reader. The object of this study, which is the novel, is we need to find the best translation strategy in order to understand the local words, the local terms in this novel, in this translation of Laskar Pelangi. So the method of this study is a library research and quantitative data. I'll progress my research step by step until I complete it, which aims to determine the translation strategy that are used in the translation of novel Laskar Pelangi by the translation. And the data collection is by using a readability questionnaire with foreign correspondents who are fluent in English, who have lived or studied Indonesian for quite a long time, maybe. And I choose this foreign correspondents because I think they will find it easier to understand the translation of some local terms in the novel, since they already know about the Indonesian language before. And I think it will be easier for them to understand the meaning of the local terms in the novel. And I use primary source such as the Laskar Pelangi novel and its translation, and also few secondary sources, like the studies that have done by previous researchers that I already mentioned before, to compare it to make a better research. And I'll develop my research strategy and take note when it's necessary, then collect the data and revise it. So the result that analyzed in the study based on the sample data that taken from all local terms in the translation of the novel. I use 5 sentences in the translation version, the translation of the local terms in the novel that can be the sample to analyze the translation strategy. And the first one, here you can see the table 1 data number 1. In the first data, for the explanation, 1 is for the data, STS source language, and P2 is page 2, and the TT is target language. On the source text, membuat wajahnya coreng-moreng seperti pemeran emban bagi permaisuri dalam Dulmuluk, sandiwara kuno kampung kami. And the target text is shrinking her face and making her look like the queen's servant in Dulmuluk, an ancient play in our village. The first data shows a translation strategy that used to translate the local terms, which is Dulmuluk. The Dulmuluk itself means an ancient local play, an ancient local play. It is shown in the target text too. In this translation, the translator use the fully borrowing method from the local language without change any meaning. So the term is not completely familiar to the most of people who do not understand the local language. Therefore, the sentence that completes these terms helps readers understand the meaning of the term. The translation focus on source language because the translation of the sentence is pure borrowing from the original word from the source text without any change, and the translator continues to use the local language in the translation. The researchers considers that the translation strategy that is used by the translator is foreignizing, because the translator fully translate the local terms without changing the term into English, and it remains the same with the source language. So in the data, the datum number 2 to 6, it is indicates that there one local term for based on the line above. Pamanda Guru is a local term translated by the translator. The term itself means the traditional dress. The translation has the same translation strategy with the datum number 1, TTP2, because both are pure borrowing translation, which are literally translated from the original words without any change of meaning. Therefore, it can be seen that most of the local terms that translated by pure borrowing are foreignizing, because they focus on translation from source language to understand the term so it can be understood by the target reader. So in the term number 3, CTP82 indicates on local terms that is used by the used in the translation, which is Dasa Dharma Pramuka. Dasa Dharma Pramuka has meaning the boy's code promise. In translating this term, the researchers considers that the translator used a neutralizing translation strategy because the translator does not change the local term from the original word, which is stay the same, the Sadharma Pramuka, but the translator also provide an explanation regarding the term to understand the meaning. So the researchers think that this is the most neutralizing is the most suitable one for the translating this line. Okay, for the data number datum number 4 ST P77, there are two local terms which are Ibunda Guru and Libur Lebaran. In datum number 4 TTP63, the translator translate these terms Ibunda Guru into Ibunda Guru and Lebaran School Break. And translating the Ibunda Guru, the researchers considers that the translator use translation strategy for anything since it is a pure borrowing translation. For the translator translate it directly from the source language, which is also Ibunda Guru, to a target language without any change of meaning. For the Lebaran School Break, the researchers consider that the translator use translation strategy domesticating since it used the mix of both source and target language. Lebaran and the libur is translated into the school break. For the datum number 5, STP 133, it is indicate one local terms, which is azan zuhur. And in datum number 5, TTP 115, the translator translate the local term, which is azan zuhur, into zuhur call to prayer. Based on this, the researchers considers that the translator use translation strategy domesticating since the translation is mix of the source and target language, which is zuhur and call to prayer as the translation of the azan. The translator didn't change any meaning in translating the term, but also put up the word that might be easier to understood by the target reader. So the readability, the level of readability by target reader is the second data that I use in this research. So the level of readability by target reader is measured through a questionnaire that filled out by the foreign correspondents who are fluent in English and have and have studied or lived in Indonesia for quite a long time, maybe. So the correspondent that fill out the questionnaire is consists of 5 people with an age range of 17 until 27 years, which came from Malaysia, Singapore, and Australia. So actually, the age is matters too in this research, since maybe people from young age have different understanding of readability with people from older age. So that's why it is ranged from 17 and until 27 years old. So the questionnaire itself consists of 4 levels. Um, so level one, it means that readers, the target readers, is fully understood the existing local terms, and the two means that the target reader only understand without further understanding. So they only understand a little bit of the terms, but not with further understanding. So 3 means that the reader only understand a little, very a little of the local terms. So, and the last one is 4. 4 means the reader does not fully understood the existing local terms. So the readers is completely blind of the terms and doesn't understand the terms at all. And based on the existing questionnaire data, it shows that on average, they still do not understand local terms well, because most of the correspondents choose number 3 and number 4, which is mean that they not understand the term. So for the conclusion, the area of this research, which is Laskar Pelangi and its translation, has local terms, has many local terms, since the background of this novel is on the local region, which is Belitung, and due to the cultural differences, also make the understanding of translation of local terms different. The translation strategy that used in translation by the translator in translating the novel consists of domesticating, foreignizing, and neutralizing. For the sample that I took, I think it's neutral, so it is basically the same. The research was conducted based on sampling related to the existing data, and the readability level of the target reader is still on average and tend to be low. Therefore, the translation of these local terms has not been able to fully adapt to the target reader. So that is my conclusion on this research. And this is a few reference that I use to make this research. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josephine, for the great presentation. Now we have a question and answer section for the judges. Marcelina Lika, you can deliver your question now. Marcelina Lika, are you here? I think Marcelina Lika can deliver her question now. So let's move to Maria Trifosa. You can deliver your question now.
My question is, why did you choose new Marx theory to analyze the object of your study over other theories? Thank you.
Can I just answer that question? I choose the Newmark theory because I think from another theory that is the most suitable one, because Newmark what is difficulty of the translator in use the translation strategy to translate the source language into the target language, and also it is defines the culture, which is why the cultural differences makes the translation is more difficult to translate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. For the other judges, Marcelina Lika, you may deliver your question.
I think Marcelina Lika is not here.
Oh, okay. The next question, maybe for the audience wants to deliver your question for Josephine research. I think there's no more questions. So thank you, Josephine, for the presentation today. So this is the end for the conference. Thank you for all the participants who attending this conference, and have a great day. See you.